A prophetic vision, the war behind the eyes. Given to Joshua L. Mullins, January 1st, 2020. This vision was given to me by the Lord on January 1st, 2020. The details, interpretation, and explanation remain my personal testimony and prophetic insight. Any sharing of this vision should be done with proper attribution to maintain its integrity and accuracy. As I walked through this vision, 6 Greek words were burned into my spirit: 3 faces of deception, 1 face of death, the voice of truth, and the voice of the lie. At the time, I had no knowledge of them, but I heard them clearly, spelled them out exactly as they came, and later discovered their meaning. They weren't random. They were a prophetic roadmap to the strategies of the enemy and the power of truth. Now, let me take you into the vision. The vision. I was right in the middle of a great war. Explosions lit the night sky. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to see in certain areas. I simultaneously experienced conflicting emotions, sudden uncontrollable fear and courage, peace and torment, love and hate, confusion and soundness. I was amongst total chaos. Every time an explosion went off, a new emotion would arise. It was as if someone would flip a switch for a light to turn off or on. I then looked to my right and saw a great and mighty army, an army unlike any I have ever seen. Their presence illuminated the darkness. They marched with such authority and power. They proceeded to move forth despite the explosions going off around them. They were not bothered by any of the chaos around them. Then to my left I seen a massive city that was consumed with fire. I heard faint and familiar cries screaming out from this city. My heart began to ache. My breath grew shallow. This urgency came upon me like a heavy weight. My feet began to burn as if I was standing on hot coals. I knew I had to get to the ones that were crying out. I quickly ran up to the soldiers to get their attention, but they did not acknowledge me. I knew that this army was in full pursuit of this city. I was standing on the sideline, as well as a lot of other bystanders, but I noticed these other people were joining up with this army. One by one the army gained new soldiers, increasing in size, but as they were increasing their light started to separate, and their light grew dim. Then out of this burning city, I saw strange, demonic-looking figures that surrounded the outside of this city. They then pursued the army with great speed, but the army kept moving forward. These figures started to unify themselves, creating a breathtaking sight. A woman rose out from this figure, a woman that was so beautiful that you could not take your eyes from her. When she spoke, she caught the attention of this great and mighty army. I could not understand the language that she was speaking. She cried out, "Planao! Planao! Planao!" The army stopped as dead, and one by one they started to remove their weapons and their armor and fell on their knees before this woman. They were no longer in pursuit of the ones that were crying out from within this city. The city continued to burn, while the cries grew weaker and weaker within my ears. I continued to listen to this woman as if I understood. The more I listened, my heart stopped aching and my feet stopped burning. I was able to walk towards the woman. I walked over the weapons and the armor that the soldiers left behind. I sat down right beside them in great wonder to hear what the woman was saying. This great and mighty army was on its knees. She then spoke these words, Planao, Dolos, Exapatao, Thanatos. She continued to speak this phrase for a total of 3 times, and it intensified the more she spoke. I started to notice that when she spoke this phrase, the image of the soldiers changed into an army of bones. Their eyes grew dark and empty, like there was no more life in them. Their faces were inhuman, like the face of death itself. The Spirit of God quickened me, and I cried out, Aletheia, Aletheia, Aletheia. I did not understand what I was crying, but it caught the attention of the woman. She quickly came to me and yelled, Pseustes. When she yelled, the army turned against me, and I quickly fled towards the burning city. As I was running, I again could hear the familiar cries of the people. My heart was aching, and my feet were burning once again. I entered the gates of this massive city, and I turned towards the sound of the cries, and I looked down, and there were a multitude of people in a pit desperately grabbing at my feet and crying for me to save them. There were so many, I felt overwhelmed and helpless. Then I saw a great light, and a man appeared to me with fire in his eyes and flames in his hands. Though I could not see his face, I fell at his feet in fear and in trembling. He said to me, Stand on your feet, my son, for I want to reveal to you some mysteries. The war that you saw was a struggle within one's mind, and all the chaos and explosions represented immoral thoughts and suggestions, constantly striking your mind, seeking for penetration, so it can inject its poisonous venom within them. The bystanders that joined up with this army were false prophets, teachers, and seducers. This is why the army's light grew dim. Even though they appeared strong outwardly, they became weak inwardly because they entertained a lie. Their minds were infiltrated by the beast's repetitive, deceptive words, spreading Satan's lies. The enemy pursued these soldiers until they broke them down one by one. The soldiers compromised their position. This came by a negotiation with their enemy, and the enemy continued to push until these soldiers lost it all. They are unknowingly brought under the influence and ruling power of their enemy. Each explosion was a distraction for the army to let down their defense, more like a thought that sedates one's thinking, a numbing effect like local anesthesia. They now confuse truth with a lie, and good from evil. Their minds are twisted. This was an opportunity for the enemy to easily take over, to rule as the new leader of this army. They fell for the deceptions of the beast's words, which concealed a hook, but it's too late for these soldiers. The strange figures you saw surrounding the perimeter of the city was Satan himself and his fallen angels. The woman that you saw that came out from Satan was a beast in disguise, a false prophet, a seducer. The words that she said deceived an entire army, bringing it to its knees. This army once reflected my image and nature, but now have been turned over to a reprobate mind. They rejected me and exchanged the truth for a lie. End of the vision.